Electrocast.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
There's a change happening in the way we live, the way we work, the way we spend our money and make our decisions. We are evolving to be more conscious in our actions in a way that serves the world and makes it a better place. Welcome to the Ethical Evolution. The Ethical Evolution podcast is brought to you by Ethical Change Agency. I'm Bindi, I'm the founder, and my mission is to help ethical entrepreneurs and holistic healers to find their voice through spiritual coaching and podcasting. I'm honoured to bring you the stories of those who create change through healing, kindness, innovation, purpose, and spirit. Understanding that to create collective change, we need to be the change. It all begins with us. Hey, before we get into this episode, I just wanted to let you know that you can now grab my album of guided meditations. It's called Sourced by Spirit, and it's on all streaming platforms, including Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, Tidal, YouTube Music, and many more. There's 11 guided meditations ranging from 4 minutes through to 10 minutes to help you reset your mind and your body at any time. Okay, now let's get on with the show. With more than 4 years of hard-won sobriety, Ryan Penley has transformed his life's adversities into valuable lessons for those still struggling with addiction. Today, he lives a life that is unimaginably blessed, exceeding even his own expectations. His debut book, Man Up, Sober Up, serves as both a testament to his resilience and a practical guide for those seeking to reclaim control over their lives. More than a survivor, Ryan is a beacon of hope for those still battling their demons. He demonstrates that from the depths of despair, it is indeed possible to forge a life filled with purpose and joy. It's a miracle that Ryan is with us today, so I hope you find value in his story as power for change. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the Ethical Evolution.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate it, Bindi, and as we just mentioned, it's been a long time coming, this conversation, so I'm super excited for it. I'm pumped to have a good time here.
So, Ryan, for those who don't know who you are and what you do, please go ahead and tell us.
Right. So I'm now an author, self-published author, and advocate for people in recovery. I've got now 5+ years in sobriety, and so I believe wholeheartedly. I believe that when we solve problems as humans out here in the existence, especially tough problems like substance abuse, I think when we gain traction in these types of difficulties that a lot of people suffer from, it's our responsibility to reach back and help people that are a few rungs on the ladder, a few rungs lower than us or behind us, if you will. Or I don't claim to be. I'm not a doctor. I'm not clinically trained to help people, but I know a couple things because I've seen a few things, especially when it comes to rock bottom. So I wrote a book about it, and I'm sharing the message in hopes that I can reach and help a few people out there.
Now, Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were once a bartender in the hottest spots of the world, known as Vegas. Am I right?
That is correct, Bindi. That's 100% correct. If you're going to bartend anywhere, it's a place to do it. Yeah, that's for sure.
And how did that have an effect on your sobriety or otherwise? Like, what happened there?
Right. Now, it may not be as abrupt as people might imagine, because as I had mentioned to you, as soon as we got into this conversation, I was there for 11 years. It wasn't all bad. It wasn't like I just got there and then, a week later I was laying in a gutter. I was actually doing quite well. If you're going to bartend professionally, Las Vegas is the place to do it. There are people that successfully pull that off. And my hat goes off to them. You can make a serious career, and people take it seriously there. It's not the same as bartending in a local town at like a little tavern. It's the highest echelon of that particular profession, and so it was good until it wasn't, and it had everything to do with me. Once the substances started catching up with me biologically, my body started to suffer. At first it didn't. I was 22. I was indestructible, right? Like I could go party, wake up, handle my business, and almost not skip a beat, right? But in time, it catches up to you. And so eventually it did for me out there. And so, but yeah, it wasn't all bad. I can say that. It does seem to somewhat sneak up on you, and then before you know it, you look around and you're like, oh shit, I'm broke. My health is declining at a rapid pace, and so I was making an approach on rock bottom quickly.
So for those who can't see you at the moment, Ryan, like I can, how old are you right now?
I'm 42 years old. And I'd like to say that, I just had a child. And so my foot has been off of
off the gas,
the gas, if you will, as far as going to the gym and running and taking care of myself. But I would say the best shape of my life I hit at 40 years old. And then the worst shape of my life was probably in my early 30s, where death was looming as a result of my addiction and substance abuse. So after 40, I've never been better.
So for those who can't see you right now, you're a pretty fit looking bro. You seem to have it together, but you've lived in the limelight of Vegas for a number of years. And you've been slinging drinks for, all kinds of people. And you've been taking them too. But right now, at the age of 42, what are the big lessons that you could let someone know if they were going to jump into the same kind of shoes as you?
Right. Well, are you referring to like a bartending career or like being in that? Yeah. Okay, well, I'll say this, the bartender lifestyle, it's kind of, there's a few phrases that like when you're talking about slinging drinks, I used to call it talking shit and swapping spit. Now that might be a little bit racy, but that was, that's what, you go to a bar, you hear lewd jokes, you see people,
you see everything.
Unhinged people. Right. And that's where you go. Now if you don't want to hear those things, you can go to a library and you can go to a nice church but when you want to hear jokes like that, you go to a bar. And now again, I respect, I've known people that have, again, like that were professional, like bar chefs, if you will, like craftsmen. Or I delved into the world of like high-end whiskey for quite a while. I sold whiskey that was unbelievably rare and expensive. So there was this. I have a respect for the industry, and historically, alcohol, has played a part, even biblically. Some of these stories that have been on thousands of years have involved wine and involved different spirits. And so I have a great respect for it. However, it's the personal element, really. It's the personal struggle that I have with moderation in general. But, for people getting into that industry, I would say here's a caution, and this is coming to my mind. This is right off the cuff here.
Yep.
Do an assessment. Do an assessment of yourself. If you're a person of excess and you happen to like drinking, maybe you shouldn't get into it, because that was my thing. I'm a person of excess. I have an addictive personality, and I happen to really like drinking. That's a recipe for disaster. And so, if somebody were saying, "Oh, well, I like the nightlife. I enjoy clubs and I enjoy bars," that's fantastic. That is it was a user error. It was a user error in my journey that led me down a very dark path. I do not villainize. I could say that that there's better things you could put into your body than alcohol. That I think that there's truth in that. But as far as social interactions and things like that, my hat goes off. I almost have a level of envy for people that do successfully navigate, bars, nightlife, clubs. I cannot. I know that now. So it was a hard lesson to learn. But yeah, I'm here saying that that would be my best advice. Do an assessment of yourself, and if you think that you could run into some issues, you might save yourself some serious trouble. If you could dodge that.
Now, Ryan, I'm guessing, in the circles that you've been in, no doubt that you would have come across some celebrities in your path and, their habits as well. And it would have kind of made you look at your own, no doubt. And what kind of insights can you share there?
What, as far as like famous individuals, or
yeah.
Las Vegas. Let me just say, like, Las Vegas is a very peculiar and interesting city. First of all, here's something that people don't realize: it's notorious, but not large.
Yeah.
The city itself is very small.
Yeah.
And so, but people know about it. It's people around the world know and are well informed about what it represents. Now, when famous people come to Las Vegas, they come there for a level of discretion. And so there's almost like a code of honor, if you will, amongst like the locals and each other, meaning locals and each other and how we operate. Or when I say we, I'm no longer there, but the way that Las Vegas, service industry people behave, it's almost like there's a non-disclosure, or the NDR, it's like an unsaid, you don't talk about certain things. What happens in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And they take that culturally to a very high level.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I've seen like basketball players go off the hinges, violence, a total catastrophe, but cops are never called. Nobody talks about it. It never hits the papers. And in fact, the celebrities aren't like put in handcuffs. They're just escorted to a different space, and then they're given free things, and then, calmed down, and then everybody kind of goes back to the party. Yeah. It's a very peculiar situation. It really is. Like, I've seen complete meltdowns, like in a nightclub. And then everybody just kind of like goes back to playing cool. Like, oh, nothing happened, nothing to see here. And so it's quite, it's like I had said, it's really interesting to see those kinds of things. But while you're there, you kind of get it. You're like, oh, okay. I'll put my phone away. I'm not, I didn't see anything, and that's kind of how the culture is.
In retrospect, does that piss you off? Like, if it was us, we'd be in handcuffs, right? Like, if it was, but if it's them, they get away with it. Does that piss you off?
I could see where somebody would be it could look like it could piss you off. But there's another element of Las Vegas. It may be like unethical. Clearly, it's unethical, and I know that's a topic here on this show. But it is a reality. Meaning, if you have the money in Las Vegas, it's a place where it is very clear. It is very clear. If you're paying, say you're gambling $10,000 every hour, you can get away with anything.
Yeah.
Like you can basically do what you want. You can say what you want. You can, you can make a scene. You can insult people, and it's because it's a place where money talks. And now, is that the way that I think life should be? Not necessarily. Is it a way that other places can effectively operate? No. A proper city shouldn't behave that way.
Yeah.
However, that's the one city where you that's what you go there for. And so when I lived there, I had dabbled. I knew that there was places I could go and I would get away with more personally because of, how I was in the industry or the money I had spent there, that kind of thing. Now, so if you wanted to be more ethical, here's a real quick flag for the whole conversation. If you want to be ethical, don't live in Las Vegas. You can visit, you can be entertained. You can watch and you can say, whoa, okay. But if you want to have like a decent life, go live somewhere on a farm or,
Oh, Ryan, that is just such a highlight. But I have to ask you, like in all your years of being on the strip, like, if you could highlight anything from what you experienced behind a bar that you could share legally, ethically, what would it be?
Well, I can say there were certain reoccurrences like New Year's Eve.
Mm-hmm.
The bar that I worked at was on a balcony right on the strip, right on the Las Vegas Strip. So I at work, I could look over and see the flamingo. I could see everything there. And so that was always a special time, because everybody would pull out all the stops. Now, there were moments like that were quite interesting, but I think more impressive than all of that is like I was a part of like a secret club.
Ooh.
It was almost like being in that industry as a bartender in Las Vegas. People would say this, like it was like I got a free pass to do and be, or where I could get I could get through a door wearing whatever I wanted many times because people knew, oh, well, he's a bartender over there. Yeah, I know him. He works over there. And so I could get into different pools and things like that. And so there's a different, there's almost this dance, right? And so I'd love to give you a one specific instance, but it's more of just that lifestyle was like I was on stage every day and I got to enjoy that part. And now I took it too far, but there were, like I mentioned before, it's like it wasn't all bad. I got to have some really cool moments, being at a pool on the weekend and seeing different celebrities, kind of, but you've got to play it cool, otherwise they kick you out, right? You can't be in the club if you're not also behaving in course, if you're not meshing with the crowd, and so. There was other instances I got it wasn't uncommon to get like a black chip tip. So a black chip is $500 US. And so they just walk up and they don't say anything and nobody announces it. They just shake your hand and then you kind of there's a chip there, there's some money, but then they walk away and you look down and it's $500. And so then that was kind of, like I said, it was reoccurring. It was part of this dance that I got to go to, and it was exciting. And so, it was not all bad. And again, it was my fault. It didn't, remain super glorious, I suppose.
Yeah. In the last few years, Vegas has lost its luster a little bit. I don't know if you agree.
I definitely agree, because I don't live there currently, but I obviously it has a place in my heart. I know that sounds kind of messed up after I just painted this horrible picture, but I know I have several friends that live there and are still in the industry, and I think Bendy, you're dead on. It has lost its luster. It's not. I think after COVID, they kind of were in a scramble to get people back.
Yeah.
And when they did that, the level of service, you go there to get the best. And what happened is they started selling. It kind of went bargain basement as they're just like, oh, we need people, and it attracted. There's a lot more crime than there was. And I know what I just mentioned. It sounds awful. In a lot of ways that it is, but there's a certain, you go there to find these types of things. That's a lot of people go there, but it was operationally, there was like a code of ethics that sounds really, it's the most messed up code of ethics ever. It really is. It really is. But if you just either visit and get out or look from a distance, you can leave. And there's no reason that you have to stay. And maybe I stayed there too long, man. 11 years is too long, clearly, because I left. They have a saying, it's that no matter how long you stay, you leave broke. And so there's like a, but you nailed it. It's lost its luster. It's not as luxurious. You're not getting, it's not as a world destination as it was in the past. I think a lot of people are kind of they're going to Dubai. They're going to places not Dubai. Is it? Well, nonetheless, there's a few spots popping up in Hong Kong that are like, it's much more luxurious. And as a worldwide destination, I think Las Vegas has kind of lost it. Their top-notch spot. And it might be because the ethics have gone too far and people aren't paying attention to, at least being, somewhat decent, I guess.
Yeah. And look, I'm not here by any means to hate on Vegas and what it is. Like, I was one of the people here in Australia that wanted to go there, a couple of years ago, but I ended up going to LA. But it is what it is. Take it for what it is. We're not here to hate on it. It still has some magnificent, offerings to people who want to travel there. So we're not here to hate on it. But I think one of the things we need to realise is that, look at things for what they are. And, what you went through, Ryan, in your career. Let's look at the people who work in those spaces and offer those experiences to people, because what you offered was exceptional, but look at the toll it's taken on you. But Ryan, if we flip the switch now and we look at you and what you're now doing in your life, how have things changed for you?
Life is hard, but finding a really great podcast makes the days go by so much easier. Hi, my name is Blue Toulousma. I'm a writer, an emotional intelligence coach, and the host of Humanize with Blue Toulousma, a podcast where we believe that when you humanize everyone in the room, a great conversation is almost guaranteed. Join us every week here on Electricast as me and my guest co-hosts unpack big topics and interview even bigger personalities with a sense of humor and a dash of mischief. If you're looking for a new best friend in your head, we've got you covered. Electricast. Yeah,
I think that when when I remember Las Vegas specifically, I have fond memories. I again, it was a user error on my part. Now, I also think that when I look at my particular journey from like a 30,000-foot view, and I'm like kind of looking when I can gain some distance in my mind, it's a magnificent era in my journey. And it's almost in the tale of myself, it was imperative, for a person to this is why they have movies like Leaving Las Vegas, and there's so many that kind of touch on going into the belly of the beast, if you will, right? Because when I was there, like in the early 2000s, it was the epicenter of the world's gambling, debauchery. I mean, at one point it was even real estate, and there's all these other other artery-like industries that were benefiting from the engine that was Las Vegas. So when I look back, I don't have any regrets. Sometimes people think, oh, well, you must really regret moving there. Occasionally I'll think about what my life would look like had I not gone, because it was 100% a march right into the fire. And I was like, I'm going to do this. And it was, for a while, it was an extraordinary experience, getting to participate in that lifestyle. So I don't get upset. I don't have regrets. And now it makes a beautiful part of the tale, because, some people might perceive it as, the worst behavior, but I really had a good time of doing a lot of this stuff. And so in my grand story, looking at people, I think what you said, Ben, you nailed it. You got to look at things for what they are. That's what that place is. I wasn't naive to the fact. It wasn't as if I didn't know what people went to Las Vegas for. I knew that very well. Now, experiencing it can sometimes be quite different than like the rumors, if you will. But it's added this element to my personal journey, and also authority to my sobriety. Because like, okay, had I been raised in the mountains with no people in a monastery, and I'd never seen a stripper before, I was never tempted. I went into temptation, and then I managed to get myself out. And so that it makes an epic twist for my tale and my message to people that are maybe have gotten too far and too deep into the party lifestyle or substance abuse, that you can turn it around, and I'm evidence of that, right?
Yeah.
I don't ever want to be hypocritical either. I don't want to say, that's why I said I have respect for the industry, for people that can do it and pull it off. It can be done, not for me. So but the Las Vegas portion of the journey was an exciting one for sure.
And I love that you've reflected on that, Ryan, because like so many people who've been in a recovery kind of retrospect, like yourself. You've been slinging the drinks behind the bar, and it's very easy to just go and grab one for yourself, right? And, we've had numerous people on this show that have talked about recovery and all kinds of different addiction. What do you think was the trigger for you?
Well, there is a twist in there that's not it's a part of the party lifestyle, but not necessarily. I had an injury in my leg, and this was like 2008, during the opioid epidemic here in the States.
Yeah.
So they were basically handing out narcotics like candy, and so I was prescribed enough painkillers to kill a rhinoceros. I mean, right from the rip. And I knew it. Like, people were like, oh, you got to go see this doctor. And I went to that doctor, and he gave me a copious amount of very potent narcotic painkillers. I was an addict instantly.
Yeah.
So that part, it wasn't just having drinks and trying to look good in a club or a bar or something like that. It was like in a doctor's office, and it
Yeah.
was given to me as medicine, right? Or this is your medicine. So now I not only have enough drugs to make me an addict, I'm also told that I need it. Oh,
Yeah.
this is what you have to do. You should do this. So that was the linchpin. And most people that know me, I was kind of limping along, drinking too much, partying too much. But when those narcotics were given to me and told by people that I thought were smarter than myself, like, this is what you got to do. And so I did it. And that element of the story, it's entirely too common here in the States. And some of these stories go down the path where they don't come back out because the pills dry up, or you can't get them, or you can't afford them. And then all of a sudden it's heroin. And then you go from heroin, and then you go down this, twist and turn until your body can't take it. And then, that has been the reality or the end of many people that I know or I had known. And so I'm very blessed and thankful that I didn't go that particular route. But in my journey, when I was given those that prescription, that medicine, if you will, that was a big turning point in my life and in my journey. And then that really added a layer of difficulty. That was it's pretty hard.
Yeah, and that's a very common story as well. So how did you get beyond that addiction to, a life where it wasn't your dependence?
Yeah, that's well, the pills I couldn't get, right? Eventually, right? Because, and then that's also another element to the opioid epidemic, is that I was paying $5 for all of these drugs. Then I didn't have insurance. And now all of a sudden, each one of those pills is like $50 on the street. So I can't afford that, clearly. So then what do you do? That's why a lot of people turn to heroin. I just turned to alcohol because you can find it anywhere. And it's relatively
and you, of all
cheap.
people.
Yeah,
Right?
so it got to the point where I was drinking like a liter of vodka a day.
Oh, man.
And biologically, your body just starts to break down at a rapid pace. And so, and I did that. I ended up developing diabetes as a result. Not of obesity, but I basically broke my pancreas. I went into a diabetic coma. So that lasted 7 days. I was pretty much dead. And that was in Colorado. And I'm kind of going fast here, but my body temperature went down to 85 degrees. So I was dead, and I came out of that, and people thought, oh, well, that was the turning point. You bounced out, you bounced back. No, I made sure I was, I dug that hole down to the bottom, the rock bottom, if you will. And then I started realizing I could let go of the shovel.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen until I was officially given up. I thought, okay, everything's falling apart. This is where I end. And I thought it was over. However, I didn't die, and I was still here. So eventually I thought, I need to get to work. And so I started just in the most smallest, most humble increments of just making efforts, just kind of slightly pointing up and a little bit better than I was the day before. And I started with 15 minutes of not drinking. I struggled. I said, I'm not going to pick up that bottle for 15 minutes, and I would fail. I failed many, many times. And then, but 15 minutes, I eventually got there, and that turned into a half hour. And it's never a straight line. Yeah. So I navigated, setbacks, and then, I just stretched the amount of days between the last drink and the current day. And I just added more minutes and more days. And then, again, I'd have a setback, but I just kept adding more minutes, more days between my last drink and today, right now. How long has it been? Need more time. And I just stacked it and stacked it and stacked it. And then I think what people underestimate is how quickly it gets better when it does start to get better, because you whether you're exercising, whatever you're doing, the wins start to get larger at a faster rate, and then before you know, you are winning. So this is where I'm at my life now. I'm not in the trenches. I'm not scratching and clawing for the hour of sobriety or the day of sobriety. And then, once you cross that threshold and you get a little bit of room to breathe, you could really start to stride. And so that's kind of what the process looked like.
So Ryan, based on that, what would you say was your rock bottom?
Yeah, it's such a good question. It's such a powerful question. And I know a lot of people, I feel like I've done that to you a couple of times. You wanted like one really great story out of Las Vegas, and I gave you just like a long answer of like an experience, but this is the same thing. It's not just one pivotal moment. It wasn't like I just hit this point and then boink, and I didn't pop right out of it.
It's a long thing.
It was a culmination of, just really dark moments.
Yeah.
And then, I think that more importantly than a circumstance outside of myself, more importantly than that, was a point of surrender. I realized that there's a power greater than myself, and I believe in that. And I stopped trying to do it on my own. I started reaching out to community. Reaching out to my God. I'm a Christian, but whoever that is, that power, that's the universe, whatever you want to call it. When you know that it's not, you let go of your ego, right? Yeah. So that's part of the surrender. And so the surrender in itself is it's an amazing experience, but it's highly complex, and then it's unique to everybody. But once that was maybe not the rock bottom moment, but it was the turning point, the linchpin for like setting myself on a proper course of action. Now, if you want to talk about nasty moments, the coma, that was bad. My mother, who's currently an addict, currently an alcoholic, she sent me to jail. She said I tried to cut her head off. I didn't even remember. I mean, I don't think I tried to cut her head off. She's not well either. So the accusation is like, it's not just me. She's accused my biological father of trying to smash her head in. It's a very deep, this is a whole other subject, but like she sent me to jail, and I realized when I'm looking at the accusation that she said that I tried to murder her, and I couldn't quite remember. So it wasn't as if I wasn't guilty of murder, but I also wasn't able to say, I absolutely didn't say that and I didn't do that. I did. It was, the whole situation was so blurred because of her addiction and my addiction. I didn't really remember what happened. I'm like, man, this is awful. And so that was very, I sat in a jail cell for a while. That can, that's not a good moment. It's definitely a rock bottom moment. And then there was, just being homeless for some time. And so that's like, a whole rock bottom series, kind of just having nowhere to go. And then, I had other rock bottom scenarios where I was part of a men's program, and I was hired to clean up a construction site. But it was mostly, I was just cleaning up bottles of urine, because it was all day long. These construction workers, there was no elevator. So they would just urine in cups, buckets. They would urine and go to the bathroom in like whatever was around. And they weren't going to go walk down 5 flights of stairs. So this was a problem for the construction site. So they hired me, and I said, I said that I'm not going to do that. And they're like, well, if you're not going to do that, we're going to kick you out of the program that I was in. So that was a pretty tough, that was a rock bottom scenario again. So there's a slew of these very hard circumstances and experiences. The complete opposite of when I was living large, making a bunch of money in Las Vegas, looking good. And, at that point I thought, well, I'm going to live fast and die young and leave a decent looking corpse. And then, you fast forward a little bit later and it's like, well, I'm not dying and I'm cleaning up urine. So you start to go over your own life, and it can get scary, but it can also be quite constructive. So I decided to be constructive about it, and so I put it in a book, and hopefully it's enough to help some people out there.
This is probably going to surprise some people, but Ryan, you and I have more in common than you would think. Once I was also homeless and lived out of a motel for a number of days at the back of my car. And I don't ever want to repeat what happened during that time, but I completely understand what you went through and the lengths that you would go to just to survive. Right. Those moments where you go, yeah, well, I have no other option, but this is it. This is what I got to do right now. Yeah, and it's about just surviving the next day and getting through the next thing and knowing that you can do that and do it with some level of dignity. I think you have nailed that. And for the people who can't see you right now, you are a happy, healthy human being. And I have to congratulate you for that because you, my friend, are looking a picture of health right now. And for all that you've been through, you are now taking your pain and turning it into purpose. So tell us about that.
Yeah, well, Bindi, I've learned to, like, when I hear your story and I can see the pain, I can see that it sucks. It sucks to think back to those moments.
Yeah.
So what do I do when I feel the same? When I start to think and I start to feel the pain that's attached to those moments, I try to remember that it's exactly what needed to happen for me to be the person that you're seeing. Yeah. You've recognized that, like you're saying, that I look happy and healthy. Well, the level of happiness and healthiness has become a result of me knowing how dark you get. The dark, it gives you the appreciation for the light. It's the contrast. So the fact that you know what it's like to live out of the back of your car, and now you have a place to live, and now you have food in the refrigerator, and you have water to drink in the lake. It's so much better. It tastes so much sweeter because it's like, it only takes, I don't know about yourself, but it takes me 1 second to realize how shitty it was. And then I look around and I go, oh my God, this is so amazing. I have electricity and I have a toilet and and so maybe you and I are better off because people that have always had that take it for granted. And so there's a bit of sweetness to regaining the dignity and regaining self-respect and regaining just a few comforts as well, right? Like it there's a lot of happiness that comes with that, and I don't think it comes. I think the light is brighter as a result of the darkness we've seen, So I think it's important, and so. Yeah.
You are so right. And, it was just yesterday, because yesterday was my birthday, Ryan.
Oh,
as you may or may not know. But I was just saying to my parents yesterday that, the house that I sit in right now that I built probably 8-9 years ago, I never thought I could do. And when I did it, I was like, wow, I'm just so grateful I've got a roof over my head, And now after 8-9 years, I'm being like so bloody princess about little things like, oh, I wouldn't put the light there. I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't do that. And I was just like, like back then I was just so glad to have a roof over my head. And now I'm like being a bloody princess of all these things. And, I was just being so pedantic about little things. And I just went, can you go back to like nearly a decade ago where you were just so glad to have the ability to build a house when before you couldn't even have one.
Right.
So it's that sort of shift of things where you go, yeah, look at you and look at where you've come from.
Right. Now, I think it is natural, though. It's natural to start to get, like, for instance, now, I'm so spoiled. Like, if my internet, we were talking about it this morning, like, I was so frustrated because my internet is down. I'm about to lose my mind. But if I were to go back to myself 6 years ago, where I was just sitting on a curb, no internet, no food, no shelter, no phone, and I just, if I just, all it takes is a quick little run down memory lane.
Yeah.
But we get caught up in the moment. So I get it. It's like, oh, I don't really like the way that light bulb looks. And I'm slightly uncomfortable. It's 75 degrees.
Oh, we are just so stupid as humans, aren't we? And then I've had so many reminders through the show and other things that I've recently experienced where I just go, you know what? Life is so bloody short. Can we stop being so fucking prima donna about things? Can we just understand that life is short and we need to bloody live it? Let's just go.
Yeah. It's a dance, Alan Watts says, I'm a big fan of Alan Watts, and he says the whole point of life is the dance. You don't dance to end up at a certain place on the floor, right? You don't play then the point of a song would be whoever finished fastest would be the best. And so we're not. If we try to remember, we're not trying to hurry up and get to the end where we die, but just enjoy the moments that we have here in front of us and what we have to be thankful for. But it's, hey, we're also humans, so we get cranky and we get spoiled and we get, it's a part of it, right? It's a part of that dance.
I am so grateful to have met you, Ryan. Thank you so much. Being a part of the Ethical Evolution. You are an absolute joy. Thank you.
Oh, I do appreciate it. We finally made it happen.
we got there. Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Ethical Evolution podcast. If you're ready to be the change and would love to work with me on finding your voice through spiritual coaching or creating your own podcast with impact, visit ethicalchangeagency.com. If you're enjoying the show, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's growing every day with great content and highlights you may not have heard on the podcast. In addition, please subscribe to the podcast on Spotify or Apple, and why not leave a 5-star review? If you're not following me on social media, you can find me at Ethical Change Agency on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook and YouTube, and at DJ Bindi on TikTok and Instagram. If you're interested in diving deeper into the ethical evolution with me, I've created a membership program that allows me to bring you more in-depth exclusive content without relying on paid ads. My goal is to deliver members way more value than the cost of the subscription. Benefits include Ask Me Anything episodes. I've interviewed hundreds of people from around the world, so imagine what you could ask. Access exclusive bonus content only for members that focuses on the downloads I get through my conversations that include actionable tips. Support Ethical Change Agency and the Ethical Evolution podcast on its mission to amplify change makers who make the world a better place. Access to global connections who can help you make greater impact in the world. Meditate with me and discounted spiritual coaching or podcast consulting with me at 15% off. That value alone pays for your membership. For only $7 a month or $70 a year, you can access all these benefits of an Ethical Evolution Emergence membership. If you want to learn more and access these benefits, head on over to ethicalchangeagency.com.
Hi, I'm Mark.
And I'm Peter.
We're the founders of Electrocast Media, bringing you great podcasts like Nightmare Road Stories, Tech Talk Revolution, and Bodacious Minds.
Electrocast networks include Ruby for female empowerment, the Best Business Network, and GPN for geopolitics. We built this company to create community and amplify diverse voices, and we really appreciate your support.
So keep listening to Electrocast podcasts and hear the culture.
Electrocast. Welcome to the Candle Power Hour. Come with us backstage behind the scenes of show business spanning over 4 decades and bringing you the experiences that can only be told by the people who were there.
Our guests are from the A-list, the F-list, and everyone in between. Get set for some of the most insane, hilarious, and inspiring stories you will ever hear.
I'm Mercury.
And I'm Diego.
Your hosts for the Candle Power Hour.